March meeting of. Thank you. Start the recording. Quorum check. Looks like we are all here. And is Pat was gonna, yep, Pat's on Zoom. So everybody's here. We have a quorum. Public comment period for items not on the agenda. Does anybody have anything they want to talk about that is not on tonight's agenda? It's not on the agenda?
Well, it's about Zach. I can, if you can guarantee I can get on,
Go ahead.
if you can guarantee I can get on Wednesday or next Thursday's meeting on Zoom, I'll talk about it then to say good night. Because I couldn't get on. I mean, there was no, the audio was so terrible.
On the last one. Is there something you want to say? Go ahead.
It's going to take a while, so
all right.
I'll wait.
But yes, we will have Zoom on the ZAG meeting.
As long as you can fix it.
Okay.
It was terrible. You couldn't talk.
Yeah, for what it's worth, at the last town board meeting, we did pass a resolution to have these refurbished. And I know it's been a long time coming, and some other things, but we are having they're gonna have to pull out cables and redo things, so it will be coming soon.
Yeah, there was a lot of people that left the meeting.
Yeah.
And then during the meeting they said we can't hear you.
Yeah, it's been going on. It's been going on for a while, and then we had to get quotes and do bids and all of that. So I'm very happy we got a green light last week.
I would say next at the DAG meeting, Tony, you might refresh everybody on what we voted on. Because none of us heard it, so we don't know what happened. It was like you heard every other word. You were there. I mean, there was a lot of people. I know.
It's really bad.
I know Martha drops out.
We didn't really vote on anything. We just went through the comments on conservation subdivision. Okay. Which will be a topic on this next one.
That's my topic is conservation. So I'll wait till Thursday.
Okay.
I'll probably be on Zoom.
5 and 9 Priest Road. Welcome back.
Yes. Will I be able to share the screen?
The screen, sorry. Are you on?
Already has it.
Joy or Gene?
Okay.
Sure he can.
All right, Adam Fischel, Marathon Engineering, civil engineer for the 5 and 9 Priest Road project. We are here before you tonight, and Terry has some technical difficulties here. I'll try to help you. We're here before you to talk about. One of you have.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Oh, actually, before you start, I do want to mention one other thing. So on the agenda, I said that this is a site plan revision in a new subdivision. In talking with Ray, this really isn't a new subdivision; it's a lot line adjustment because they're not changing the subdivision per se; we're just adjusting the lot lines from the subdivision. In the subdivision that was previously approved. Does that make sense? Not a new site. Okay. Sorry, I just wanted to clarify that.
That's okay. We were here before you to respond to some comments that came up at last month's meeting. Primarily being obviously the recent division, modification of subdivision for the single family home project site. And we are, some of the comments that we received were, I apologize, I'm trying to find information here. It was not looking. The hard copies that we had submitted and the response letter we had provided responding to those comments, of which were, there's a member on the board that asked if we could install a 6-foot fence against the parking to prevent some headlight glare for those parked cars facing the one single family home lot, which you've added. There was a comment pertaining to the, thank you so much. The materiality of the elevations and the buildings on multifamily, those are some of the changes we asked about. Admittedly, the town planning board indicated that planning board at the last meeting indicated there was no jurisdiction over the materials, but they asked for some information and questions. So Bear is our private guard.
Yeah, I'm calling one guy now.
Okay,
He's
oh, for
online.
getting a break time, you mean? Oh, perfect, okay. Yep, you got it, thanks. I didn't know if you need me back here or not, to be honest, I wasn't sure.
I'm projecting the letter. Just Gina, I'm projecting the letter there.
Yeah, thank you. So Bear will be able to speak to that information here in a minute. There was a question asked about the number of parking spaces, and we are losing 2 spaces. We're down to 10 versus the 12 previously approved. But as noted on our plans, we do still comply with the minimum parking requirements for those for the single family home use. And there was a question raised about the line of sight from Dryden Road. We did submit a quick line of sight cross section from Dryden Road, where it's illustrated that even though we lose that one building from 2 stories to 1, line of sight from Dryden Road is still largely impeded by that single story home. And I did go into some discussion on my response letter about visibility, looking up the new parking driveway from Dryden Road. There was already a driveway at the north end of that single family home development, so there was already a certain level of view from Dryden Road as we pass by in the car will be looking toward the multifamily project site. Certainly, there's no substantive change in how much view shed you have from Dryden Road looking toward the multifamily. I'm able to get my drawings up here, but Bear, are you available to talk about the materials and some of the multifamily building elevation changes while I remove my display here?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll go ahead and share my screen and can cover some of those items. Ready? Is everyone seeing my screen?
Yep.
All right, perfect. So, Adam will have a better technical drawing in terms of looking at the sight lines for the 2 elevations, but we thought it was important to also add to the context, understanding where the plantings currently
Yeah,
are.
he's got one of my guns in the back, I wasn't sure what he was
Gotcha.
talking about. This is the range back here,
Yes.
can you walk in there, take a look or not?
No,
Okay,
Getting some interference here. Somebody's talking about their guns.
okay,
it's what's up on the.
oh, I got you. So you bring your own, or you can rent too?
Yep.
Yeah. There we go. Thank you. So what we really wanted to illustrate here is on the bottom image showing the sight lines of the 2-story single family houses and then the single story single family. The exact design will be in the purview of Streams portion, but just trying to illustrate that with the 6-foot tall fence and having the ADA unit or the accessible single family house really shouldn't be impacted or create a negative impact to the sight lines of the buildings in behind. Because here you can see dashed out where the walk-up units would be. the roof line of those units are going to be sitting below the height of the single family, almost at the 1-story mark. And then the larger multifamily building in the back, the main portion of the roof line does sit below the single families, and then it just is approximately at the same height as the others. And so you can also see a little bit of that here on the Freeze Road elevation. And one thing that we found that was quite important when we were reviewing this is the amount of vegetation that's actually going to be planted in between the single family and the multifamily, and then also the amount of vegetation that's planned on for along Freeze Road in front of those multifamilies. There is 11 trees just from this spot all the way over, and then there's a couple more going up towards the retaining. In terms of materiality for the units, for the walk-ups, we emphasize trying to maintain the materials as much as we possibly could, understanding that we needed to do this value engineering effort to try to bring some of the costs in line for the project. And so we still have the hardy board and batten, or fiber cement board and batten siding is the intent to still, that was original to the project. We're maintaining that. The slight change along the entry here is instead of the white material being a metal siding panel, like a 90-degree corrugated profile, it is also going to be a board and batten, just still in the white color, just using the other material that's being used elsewhere on the project. And then as we wrap around each side of the building, we're going to turn the cultured stone base into the tucked in sections of the building. And then we're going to transition to the hardy, because we found that the cultured stone was the most expensive element of these facades. So trying to trim that back in a sensible way, as much as we possibly could, would greatly help the project get in line with where it needs to be. And so building A is going to be a blend of this green and blue. Building B is going to be similar. It's going to be green and brown. And then moving to the multifamily is where we'll see some of the larger adjustments being made. So again, with the white material, previously that was a white metal panel, that is going to be the white hardy board. There was a discussion at the last meeting that we were looking at options of maybe needing to do like a vinyl or like an engineered wood siding. Through the pricing exercise with the contractor, we have maintained that we're going to stay with hardy board or the fiber cement product. So therefore, which is great news, we don't have to make a change on that element. The big portion was the discussion along the back. If you remember, the gray section down below was all the stone, cultured stone originally. And what we're suggesting here is changing to a gray board and batten fiber cement. So then that way it still has the same aesthetic appeal of not this tall 4-story elevation. The color blocking will help break it up into its chunks that it previously was. And then in terms of the adjacent elevations, you'll note that, again, we're bringing the cultured stone to a point on the side facing Freeze Road, and we're going to stop it right at the retaining wall and then transitioning down to the board and batten below. And similarly on the other side, we will have a slight return right around the corner, right at the retaining wall, and then it will transition down. So we feel like these adjustments maintain the spirit of the previous aesthetic that we had provided to the board for approval. And we hope that you guys will see these adjustments likewise. Adam, I'll turn it back over to you for your portion there, bud.
Great, thanks. I have resolved my technical difficulties, so I appreciate everybody's patience. So getting back to the site plan. Sharing the screen. So the 6-foot tall wooden privacy fence is right here. There's page south of the new single family home, adjacent to the park as well, shields some of those headlights, the headlight glare that is produced in those parked cars. In our letter that we also submitted here, and we also discussed this at the last meeting, was a notion of reworking some of the parking to make this home at least lot number 4 ADA accessible. So really what we've done is we flipped the parking and moved the turnaround area for the ambulance more front in toward Dragon Road. We've added one ADA parking spot and a sidewalk stub that'll connect that striped access aisle, if you will, to the sidewalk along Dragon Road. And that person or persons can then get into the single family home via that. You can see the screen here, but the sidewalk along Dragon Road and the sidewalk into their home. So that's our method of addressing the accessibility for lease lot 4. That is a change from our original submission as part of this revision, but that was included in the last submission to you. We did talk about, yes.
Sorry. Is there gonna be plenty of room, at the end of the parking lot to push snow when they do snow removal butter?
Yeah, so there'll be some room at the very end for snow, and there's a bit of a guide rail buffer there. But that is something that we can hatch and show on.
Okay, that would be-
Sure. The other item was the line of sight. We already touched on it. We cut a cross section in our submission here across the single family home is going from 2 floors to the single story. And in our cross section here, you can still see that if someone is standing, you know, at the Dragon Road frontage in a car or walking the sidewalk, their line of sight is still largely impeded by the single story building as you look toward the multifamily here. So that is addressed. The other item on the civil plans that we've noted is a location for some trash receptacles for trash recycling. We don't have a room for a dumpster. We didn't have a centralized dumpster location in the original approved drawings, but to try to, you know, should go good faith effort here. We've shown some tote areas at the mouth of the driveway adjacent to the sidewalk, so a Casella or local hauler can pull up, walk up the driveway, walk down the sidewalk, get the totes and go back to the truck. So that's our method of trying to get an effort to have a centralized location. Whether the homeowners will abide by that, so that's to be determined, but at least we're making an attempt to show that. I think that's pretty much all the site plan changes that we had here. At the request of Ray, I did do a quick comparison, both of the subdivision and approved subdivision and parking and revised subdivision and parking. So here on the left, you'll see the approved parking area inside of that. On the right screen, you'll see the red. That's the local, the smaller parking area that is resulting as part of this change. And then the re-subdivision is going to be pretty hard to see here, but we're largely within the footprint of the original approved subdivision, the single-family homes. There's a slight expansion of the subdivision in this corner here by about 20 feet, and then over here on this corner where it was previously approved by about 12 feet. And then there's about a 0.2 of a foot change on the rear lot line, but largely those modifications have been balanced out by modification between the single family and the multi-family to still maintain the overall multi-family lot areas, causing issues with the lot density of multi.
And so the other lot lines don't change
The other lot lines being,
from the original subdivision, that there was 6, is it 6
yeah,
properties?
yeah, so the whole bounds of what was referred to as a single family home lot, that's all changing. The location of the lease lots within that single family lot also changing, but largely the footprint isn't all that different. Other than what we have put here in on the map.
Questions? I'm sorry, is that it?
Yeah, that's good.
Questions? Yeah, we covered this. Yeah, we went through all of it. Okay, so we need to approve this site plan review. Well, I'll move that we approve
Mr. Chairman, if I may, is there any way to have the resolution or the motion speak also to the material changes on multifamily at all? Or acknowledgement of the change? I know the board doesn't have any.
We got, yeah, we can acknowledge, yes.
Okay.
So I guess the motion would be, to approve the, site plan revisions, which include moving the parking areas, moving the parking area, the other lot line adjustments of the subdivision. The other pieces that we're talking about, there was some changes to the driveways and stuff in the, near the,
For the multifamily.
multi-family area. As we recall, there was some changes there, but again, not changing footprints, really just sort of changing how things were laid out. And the changes in materials to maintain the intended aesthetic with the new materials, recognizing that we really don't have a lot of jurisdiction over materials, but I mean, it seems to fall within our design guidelines. And yeah, I think they're fine, right? So, so that's a very poorly said.
I understood it.
Which we will sort of clean up when we put it in writing, but that's essentially the motion, is that with what they gave us last time and this time, that we're okay with the way it sits, with these changes and we approve, including the materials changes, yes.
That's the thing, I think there's a little more there. I mean, we don't dictate the actual color materials that go up. You know, there's guidelines, but I don't think it's fair to say, I don't want to record the change of the material itself. The changes in the site plan, we're reviewing now. The changes in the site plan measure like approved. Then I just don't think it's our place to be materials.
And that's why I made the statement about acknowledging the changes.
Yeah,
The change to the site
changes.
semantics.
So we're acknowledging that there are changes to materials, but they seem to fit with the aesthetic that was originally approved and that. So, all right, so that's the motion.
Second.
Okay. Any other discussion? No, all in favor?
Thank you for putting so much thought into take that.
Pat, are you on?
Yes, I'm in favor.
Thank you. I couldn't see on the screen whether or not. All right, so Joy, that's unanimous. Yes, sorry, go ahead.
I'm all set. Frank, did you ever want to say?
I just say thank you for taking the rest of it.
Sure. I appreciate the patience while I fought with my technical difficulty.
Well, we've had some technical difficulty here.
It's great when it works.
Appreciate your. All right,
Thank you so much.
thanks.
Thank you.
Okay,
Good evening.
172 Ed Hill Road. So I've been made aware that what we're going to see tonight, and there's some hard copies up here, is actually a bit different than what was sent out to the board originally. I will say that this is not a full.
I was gonna get them. Did they get it done? No,
Is it okay if I dim the lights for people in the audience? Can see the screen?
I did get on Zoom. I'll try to share my.
And I think Gina has these things she could share through it. Right, Gina?
Yeah, just tell me which
Okay.
piece you want to show and I'll show it.
Gina, can you start with the
So-
soil analogy, man?
So here's what, I mean, before you start, don't make it too dark in here. I don't want to fall asleep. So this project, so we have a submitted application. You yesterday or today submitted a new revision to it
This morning.
this morning, okay? and which will be distributed to the planning board. That will be distributed to the planning board tomorrow, put up on the website and distributed to all the other interested boards tomorrow. Having said that, my intent is that you're going to present this revision, right?
Right.
We'll take a look at it. We're not voting on anything tonight. This is not an official review. We're just getting an introduction to the changes. The other boards will not have had any chance to look at this at all. So I guess when we're done with your presentation, if there are people that want to say things that are new based on this new information, then I'll open it up for that. But if it's comments on things that have been previously submitted, that stuff's all kind of out the window now. So we should probably do other things, right? But, yeah.
So why are we looking at something that we haven't had a chance for ourselves?
It's just an introduction.
This is an introduction. You won't be making any decisions. And it's been a plan in progress. I've listened to the monthly meetings of that Agriculture Council.
I understand, but this is a procedural.
Right.
This has happened multiple times in the past. And as someone who studies this stuff now, it's right out the window.
Well, it's not complete. He'll describe what the changes are. There was a change made to try to address the agricultural, protecting the ag part as part of it. So from the stuff that was sent out, there's a change that was just released. We already had this on the agenda because we have a formal application. So we have a formal application.
Yeah, just keeps coming up.
Yeah.
So when's this gonna stop? Do the same day submission?
Yeah.
We don't even get a real chance to look at it.
But we're not being asked to make any decisions.
I understand, but that limits the amount of comments that we potentially have.
So
Yeah, so as I was saying, I've been trying to take everything in that's coming. I've listened to the Ag Council, Ag Committee meetings. I listened to the town board meeting from last Thursday. That's where these leader changes came. And I worked on revising, and I met with Ray actually yesterday, and came up. He gave me a couple other things to think about, and I revised. That's why the latest map came out this morning. I didn't obviously had the conversation, not expecting you to make any decisions on it, but we're trying to make it the best possible that we can. So
think of this as prep for the April 23rd.
yes. So Gina can share the soil map.
Oh, the soil map, okay.
There it is.
You need a copy?
Yeah, I gave you I thought I kept one. So I spent some time coloring the green, the 4 spots of green. Those are the only prime agriculture soils on the entire 237 acres. Then the stuff that's in purple, there's 105 acres of farmland of statewide importance. That takes in the whole corner of Trillium Woods. It's all wooded. Almost 20 acres there. And then the red is prime farmland if it was drained. A bunch of that goes into the wetland, though I'm probably not going to drain it. It would really affect the wetlands if it was drained. I think whether you're draining it into the wetlands or away from the wetlands, either way, I think it would negatively affect the wetlands. So we looked at that, and in the big worry about agriculture, I sat down with the map, and now you could go back to the subdivision map, Gina, spent some time trying to figure out, how to preserve agriculture the best that we can and make this work. And I came up with lots 3 and 5 on the map are both 30-acre lots to take in all agriculture land. So currently there's 83 acres of meadow that's being used on the entire property. So out of 237 acres, only 83 acres, a third of it, is being used for agriculture. And so I made 2 lots that are 30 acres each, because that driveway went down the middle. It made sense to separate them, not make 60 acres, but make 2 30s. That would all be agriculture, that would be in the soils of statewide importance, and could be sold for agriculture. So, the farm next door, if they were looking to buy, it might be a better deal for them to buy 60 acres of just agriculture land instead of buying 237 acres where they were only using a third of it. So then we preserved 10 acres of the Trillium Woods up there to be totally preserved in its own lot. That also moved all the building lots away from the back farm to try and move away concerns of being by the large agriculture. So lots 1 and 2 are way down the road with residential across the road. And then other than the existing house, the next lot is around the corner. And over 600 feet down the road away from the woods would be a buffer to the farm.
And then as I understand it, the other 2 lots, the board, so 10 acres, Trillium Wood is about 20 acres, right?
Correct. So the house lot, which is lot 6, there's a building envelope around the house. That would be the only area that they could build. The rest of that lot would just be buffer area. Would protect the Trillium Woods. The same thing with lot 6. I put the building envelope in those hemlocks. That's a different, it was all included in the UNA, but that's a different woods setting in there. I don't know, we'll probably know in a few weeks, but I don't think the Trillium, it's all shaded. I don't think the Trillium, it grows in the hardwoods. So that's why I put the building envelope in those hemlocks. So all of the Trillium Woods would be preserved except for a 1.2 acre building envelope in the one corner. Then down through we have some flag lots. I kept the building envelopes back away from the wetland in the buffer zone. They're not even close to the wetland buffer zone as it shows on the maps now. That's something that we're going to have delineated as we go down the road, like force some changes. We have no we don't have plans to impact the wetland if the wetland line changes. We'll have to amend the lots. I did add a new lot, flag lot down on the end using it's hard to see it with the woods, but using the old railroad bed as a driveway for that. I think it made sense. It's there and it would be good to utilize it. So I made that a flag lot and back into another. And then, of course, originally we got 56 acres. That's the spruce fir swamp that will be going to the wetland trust into the neighboring property. So we've I feel like we've tried to protect the 2 UNAs as best as we possibly can, and tried to provide 70% of the agriculture that was existing, they were trying to keep it, to make it work.
So next steps on this, if people have questions they want to ask tonight, they can certainly ask them, but like I said, this is all gonna be distributed. This latest one will be distributed to everybody tomorrow. And the full public review will be at the April 23rd meeting. And one thing to point out is that some of the aspects of the building envelopes and whatnot, these are all provisions that we can use in the current conservation subdivision law. And they would also work in the conservation subdivision work that we're doing in the zoning rewrite.
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up to me, because Ray did send me the new
one.
conservation.
So you're trying to work from the new one that we're trying to work out, right?
Correct. I did go through, and I think we meet, the new.
Even though it's not in place, you're
Correct.
you're trying to meet it, right? And there will be there's still some discussion going on with that, so that's still a draft, what you're seeing there.
Correct, I'm aware of that, I'm aware. Ray forwarded it to me though, and said, just read it, and
Yeah.
see,
So you can get an idea of where we're going, right?
correct.
So, all right. Any questions from anybody here? Or we're just gonna study it and ask in April, what?
So the prime wetlands, is drained, does that mean it's prime farmland,
Right.
if drained, does that mean it's a wetland? What is,
It means it has a high water table, it's not prime farmland because it's too wet,
right,
but if you drained it, if you put in drain tiles. And got rid of the water, then they would consider it a prime farm.
but there's 4 of those lots that are located in that red zone there. Lots, 12 through 15. How would you build? How would anybody build in a situation like that?
They're still buildable, it's not. Excuse me, it's not wetland, it's not standard water, it's just not prime ag soil because it's got too much water. I don't know how they rate that, that's just what it came up on the, but they're suitable to build. I drove a truck out across them.
What's the current use?
Of that area.
Yeah.
There's small fields, if you see that your photo, those are,
So it's currently being farmed.
it's currently being farmed, yes.
Parts
What's that?
of it.
Yes, well, I gave them their photo where you see the meadows are being farmed, and that's included in the 83 acres that's being currently farmed, right? Is all, those meadows were included in that.
Now you did mention there's 82 acres being farmed. And how many that potentially could have been farmed? Is that what you?
Well, the overall piece is 237 acres. And only 83 of it's being farmed currently, so only about a third of it.
And large chunks that can't. But
And on this, there's gonna be 60 acres still farmable.
correct.
So, say that again.
And on this new plan, out of that 80 some, there's 60 acres will still be farmable.
Correct.
Yep. Okay, so like I said, we can't do a lot with this tonight, but it's information for us to consider and review. We also have the ZAG meeting coming up, which we'll be revisiting the conservation subdivision pieces, so we can have that in mind. Any other questions here? Any questions from? Yeah, go ahead.
So, in the legend says the dashed green line is the, wetland boundary,
Yes,
and I guess the aqua bluish dashed line.
that's the 100-foot buffer zone.
Yeah, so I'm the new guy from the poll. What does that buffer represent?
On state wetlands, the state requires 100-foot setback from the actual, so you have the actual wetland line. And then they call it a buffer, so you can't disturb within 100 feet of the wetland boundary without getting a permit from DEC. So I put that buffer on there because my goal is to keep all the building envelopes, keep everything outside of that 100-foot buffer. So they wouldn't require any permits from DEC. Thanks.
Pat? Any questions? Okay. All right, so I guess we'll see you in
April.
April.
Okay. Hopefully no more revisions.
All right,
Can we ask some questions?
I guess
Yep. Yeah, so,
you need to come where the microphone.
okay.
Yeah.
Questions of you.
Oh, they look.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask a couple questions.
Okay,
There's
great.
the next one. So is the wetland being sold? Or is that a donation?
That's a donation.
Okay, same with the Trillium Woods.
Yeah, that actually hasn't been, we talked to the town, I haven't talked to the town board, I've only talked to Ray about whether we go to the town or who we, what.
I only asked that because there was a recreational component to the last subdivision. So,
Correct.
so hopefully, every subdivision you can ask for some recreational.
I think the intent is that 10 acres would be
But
transferred.
that's why
That's,
that's why I was asking if there was anything there. So and also the railroad path, the consideration is to try to get easements for the old railroad paths. Talk about putting the road.
yes.
So if it's possible to get an easement from the town, then
Yeah, Ray brought that up to me yesterday, I did not amend that onto the map,
Okay.
I haven't talked, but I don't see why it'd be a problem with an easement across before we're
Yeah.
giving it to the wetland trust. Like Ray said,
that would
we would have it.
that would be nice. And then ag, if you could keep the wells 100 feet from anything that's being actively farmed, the wells.
Okay,
So that would be nice if that's possible.
okay,
I think the way the building envelopes, I think that.
Well, I'm talking the wells. Because if a well gets contaminated because of their spreading fertilizer,
But the well.
the DEC makes them not spread within 100 feet of the well.
right,
So instead of having a setback,
if we put a note,
Yeah.
you just make sure the wells are 100 feet. So that's all I've got.
thank you.
Oh, I had one more question and this is to the board, is that when Mill Creek was developed, it was all on dirt roads. And what we didn't realize was that the roads weren't built to the fire apparatus code. So the town had to go back in and rebuild the roads.
Wait,
Is that not true?
that's not true at all.
Did you
They
pay
did
that?
that, no, the town did that prior.
But it was because of,
Before, no, it was all done before, because that came up, and I went and got a letter from the highway superintendent, that was done prior to us even buying.
so I guess the question is the road ever gonna need to be upgraded? Either. So that was my concern. So it might be worth asking the highway. That. So the town's not on the phone.
Thank you. Greg's question and me, Greg's question for me is that Trillium Woods would be considered a recreational area for subdivision? Is that,
No,
what does that mean?
no, the idea is, so, in Mill Creek, as part of Mill Creek subdivision, they deeded to the town a certain piece of land. that
3.5 acres.
It was considered, quote, recreation use. It's the town, it's not the subdivision. And the idea here is that 10 acres of Trillium Wood would likewise be a conservation space that would be deeded to.
But to me, it could be a park. You know, it could be that's the town, and again, that's another road that we have to go down. Ray says, you have to talk to the town board whether they want that.
Right, that's the question with the town.
So, we'd look for another entity, or we would combine it into one of the lots there with a conservation easement if nobody wanted it.
Right, it could just be a lot with conservation.
Right, but right now I have it sectioned out as its own piece. I think ideally the town, but we haven't got that far down the road yet.
Yeah, because that's the question. Would the town want? Anybody have other questions?
I have a question for him.
Go ahead.
The 60 acres that will be remaining in agriculture, is that one entity or 5 acres of this person's lot, 5 acres of that, and a bit of that?
They're two 30-acre lots, and the only reason they're split is because that driveway was down the middle. So it would be that entire one parcel. And this would be the entire. So it's in two 30-acre parcels.
Owned by,
Whoever buys it.
Whoever buys it, they would be up for sale
for ag,
for agriculture. There are building envelopes on them because I did discuss with Ray, they wouldn't want to approve lots that down the road became defunct, they couldn't be built on, couldn't anything. So they do have building envelopes, not saying that somebody bought it for agriculture, they wouldn't have to build.
so this building envelope here goes with that
Correct.
lot, same as with that one.
Correct.
Okay. All right. That was my question.
Yes, okay.
Yep.
Yeah, and then, like I said, this is all gonna get distributed to the boards
Right.
tomorrow, so you'll get copies of all this. tomorrow.
Okay. Thank you.
Go ahead.
My concern is wondering whether Dryden has the capacity now, in 10 years, in 20 years, to make sure that these building envelopes are enforced.
Well, they're in the deed. So if somebody builds outside of the building envelope, they can't get a mortgage.
When they come to the building department, which
They can't get a permit.
they can't get a permit to. They have to do a site plan, and they have to show where.
And we actually had this happen with the conservation subdivision that was done where the old golf course was. The house was built
But
a few
that
feet
is
from
still there.
where, well, I know, they ended up solving the problem later, but they went through a whole long legal rigmarole because the property, because the house was built slightly outside of the building
Right.
envelope. And they couldn't get a mortgage. The bank refused to give them a mortgage. So there was a problem there. Now, one of the things we're talking about in the zoning rewrite is how to improve enforcement. And what should be happening, in my opinion, is that as these inspections are being done, as code enforcement is going out and inspecting like the stakes for the foundation and where everything's gonna go, that they should be looking at the deed
They
restrictions
should,
and the subdivision.
Well, somebody must be, because I got a call on Mill Creek
Right.
that they were out. They wanted to build in a different area, could they move the building envelope because the town wouldn't give them a building permit because it was outside their building.
That's right.
So somebody.
And the answer was, no, we can't move the building envelope, right, because it's in the
Correct.
deed. Yeah.
But somebody from the town was looking because they couldn't get a building permit from the town.
They wouldn't give them a building permit because they were, so they caught it, so that's good, that's what should happen.
Right.
So whether they're proposing to put a building outside the building envelope, or even if what happened at the golf course is when the developer, when the contractor went in to build the house, he put the foundation
He moved it.
in the wrong spot. And the Unfortunately, in that case, it wasn't discovered until they went to try to convert to a mortgage and the house had already been built. Now, assuming things are working the way they're supposed to, that shouldn't happen, but. Other questions? Yep.
I had one clarification. Oh, sorry. I'll wait.
Hold on 1 second, that's.
I have some more questions about the nature of the building envelopes and what is and not allowed in them. I understand that certain ag structures could potentially be built with building envelopes. Could you talk about that?
So the building envelopes are, correct me if I'm wrong, as I understand them, are just really areas of disturbance. It's where you can build things. Now, given ag laws, if someone is actually farming this land, there's a lot less restrictions on where they can build things like barns and stuff. Now, I think in the conservation subdivision, though, I think they would be restricted from doing that. That's something you can check.
Now, we put, and this might be in conflict with we put in our protective covenants that ag related buildings could be outside the building.
Right. Well, and I think they can. I think, remember that setbacks in ag areas, setbacks don't necessarily apply to farm buildings and those. So if you're talking about a barn or those kind of things, those can be, but they still can't be in, like they couldn't build a barn in a wetland, right?
Correct.
In those kind of things, but so people could potentially, if it's a farm.
Again, somebody
Which is the way it is right now. It's a farm. They could build farm structures pretty much anywhere they want.
Somebody bought one of the 30-acre lots and built their home in the building envelope, but then we're doing hay or wanted a storage for hay, or they could build something else outside the building.
Okay, but to focus a bit more on Trillium Woods and the wetlands. So, first of all,
Which, one clarification there is that if you're talking about those two areas, those are not going to be ag areas.
well, there is.
Right.
But in the last iteration, there was one lot, two lots actually, within the Trillium Woods UNA.
Yep.
Okay, and they each had building envelopes. So these are wooded areas. So potentially one could claim, oh, I'm going to put up a huge barn, put up a barn, and we,
You're doing that, they're using it for agriculture.
I'm not sure,
That's a good point.
outside of building.
No, those two lots, they're wooded, we can add language with those. Because that wasn't the intent. I see where you're going, that, somebody cleared and said we're gonna have animals.
Barns, so
Right.
they kind of can go outside.
Yeah.
Also to the point that the actual Trillium Woods UNA is 30 acres, not 10 acres. And
I don't know where they came up with the 30 acres.
you repeat what you were saying about hemlocks. So is your rationale for one of the lots you said is, some hemlocks?
Yeah.
Which, by the way, would be one of the attributes of a UNA. It's the UNAs are not, it's not the Trillium are part of the amazingness of that UNA, but there are other facets of that UNA, other species that make those UNAs unique. And I imagine I'm not, the ERC people aren't here tonight because I'm not sure why, but again, people have only had the opportunity for the last iteration. So
Which is why I wasn't going to have a lot of comment tonight, because people haven't had a chance to see this. That's April 23rd was really.
So just that, do say the protection of the Trillium Woods UNA to 10 acres is really protecting the Trillium Wood.
Well, it's not protected at 10 acres because it's also outside the building envelopes. It's being on the other lots, it's still being protected. So there's more than 10 acres that's being protected. But That's what we need to look at in this, in considering all of this is figuring out exactly.
While you're on that. You know, yes,
Mentioned that the conservation board meets next Tuesday,
Right,
and we will be for sure looking at. Next
exactly.
Tuesday. And this would be our focus.
it's just to review for the board, because I took this right off of, it's in the packets that I submitted, but it's right on the county website, what UNAs are and aren't.
Yes.
You know, and they're just to identify areas, there's no legal jurisdiction, there's no, still, I feel like we're protecting 95% of it, you know, with 1 billion, but, you know, 10 acres would be preserved intact, and 2 with building envelopes in buffer, so,
Right. So I guess what I'm saying is, I mean, I would expect you to review all this. This is coming out to the boards. It's going to be available on the website, so people have a lot of opportunity to review this latest proposal. And certainly, you know, comments, questions, still try to get them in. I'm hoping that the ag and conservation boards and those will take this up at their next meetings and give us some feedback. I'm sure they will. I'm hoping, I'm sure they will. But you know, I'd like to see, you know, there are some significant changes to this proposal, to even the one that was distributed a couple weeks ago, which was a significant change from the one that was originally the sort of the preview that you brought, right, what, 2 months ago, right? Yeah, so I think, you know, the next steps are, you know, these other everybody's gonna have a chance to review these things before the April 23rd meeting. The 23rd meeting will be a full public review. People will have lots of opportunity to talk at that meeting. I'm hoping that people can submit a bunch of information and comments in writing prior to that, so we can include it with I usually send out the agenda a week before. I'd like to have as much of that feedback back as possible before I send out the agenda, so that people on the planning board have a chance to, like Chris has said, he likes to study it, right? I mean, we like to look at this stuff and have a good understanding of it before we're sitting here, right? So,
Tony, would you like me to attend the conservation meeting?
We certainly don't object.
I would be happy to.
Yeah, that would be fine. We need, no, it's not here, it's down the hall.
When do you
And
meet?
we start at 7.
What?
7 to 9 on Tuesday.
Next Tuesday?
which is April.
Yeah, it's
31st, I think.
No, March 30th.
The last Tuesday of the month.
The last Tuesday of the month.
Yeah, that really did teeter, and she was thinking, oh, that Tuesday, it's an extra day. No, ours is the last Tuesday.
It's the last Tuesday, not the fourth Tuesday or fifth, it's the last Tuesday of the month. Yeah.
We're being held virtually. This month.
Oh, it is totally. Oh, that's not gonna work very well. How come it's doing that?
I'm not gonna be around and neither is Ann. Dean is meeting,
Oh,
so it's held virtually.
so
When-
that's gonna be really difficult to review.
Check out the stuff.
We may have,
When does
we
the
may have
ad-
to change it.
Okay.
If we can
I'd
change
have to look, it's on the website.
Okay,
If you look on the website, on the Dryden website calendar, on the boards and conditions, you can see when. You can see when and where they.
okay, thank you very much.
Before you go, is there anybody on Zoom that had any other questions on this project? Doesn't sound like it. Any other questions in the audience? And I'm not trying to keep people from saying, I just want to make sure people are commenting on the latest things and nobody's had a chance to really look at this thing.
mentioned that that bit that was, prime farmland and drain actually does have some tile in.
Probably the parts that are actually being farmed do.
Yeah, no,
I-
that's what
yeah,
I mean to say.
yeah, this thing prime.
There are some tiles that might be one who could drive on.
There may be some tiles there. But so in the stuff that's being distributed, these soil maps are in there, so conservation. Yeah, everybody gonna have a chance to look at where the soils are, where everything else is. And I'm expecting a robust discussion at the April 23rd meeting. That make sense?
Yeah.
What? All right. Anything else on the?
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Alan, for bringing over. All right. Sorry, now we have a battery energy storage system presentation.
Kelly,
Hello.
do you want to present your own slides?
Sure. Yeah, that works for me. I can just present.
All right.
Thanks, Gina. So, but before I start sharing screen, I just want to say hello and thank you all thanks the planning board for letting me come and present today. I'll try not to take too much time and leave some room for questions if there are any. But just to introduce myself, my name is Kaylee. I work with Sole Source Power. We're based out of Troy, New York. Apologies, I couldn't be there in person today. I actually went to school up in Dryden, and I'm up in the area quite a bit, but just had some appointments down where my family is in New Jersey, so couldn't make it. But I promise I'll be there next time. And just quickly of kind of why I'm here and why I want to present. I know the town of Dryden has been discussing implementation of battery energy storage regulations, and truly I just want to be a resource, a source of truth for kind of how battery energy storage development goes on my end of the tape. Just be involved in any way regulations. Sorry, am I back? Can you hear me?
Yep.
Awesome. Sorry. Yeah, I think I cut out there, but just would love to be involved in any way I can in those code regulations being addressed in the town of Dryden. And of course, because I'm interested in doing a project in Dryden as well, which I will show a couple potential sites we're looking into further in the presentation. So it's all very preliminary also, by the way. We are really at the forefront of anything. So looking for early feedback and thoughts and questions. So can everybody see my screen all right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect. I'm going to keep it like this just so I can kind of easily click through. So sorry if I need to zoom in, please let me know. So first and foremost, just kind of who we are exactly. Sole Source, we're a tight-knit company, about 30 of us. We do community solar development and battery energy storage in New York and Illinois. I'm a New York State developer only, so that's kind of where I work and a couple of my colleagues work. We're really just committed to helping New York reach their sustainable goals in kind of the solar and battery storage based on the new rollout that came out a little over a year ago now for battery storage. So that's kind of our mission, and that's what we do. Next is what is BESS. And I'm sorry if everyone kind of already knows this, but just I like to start sometimes at the very beginning because there's different types of BESS and it can be quite confusing. And BESS stands for Battery Energy Storage System. So how there's a lot of different sizes of batteries. There's the ones that are in your car or attached to your home. That's called residential scale, kind of similar to residential solar, when you just have a couple of panels, a couple of modules. Then there's retail battery storage. That's the storage we develop. That covers roughly 10,000 square feet, 20,000 square feet. So when you compare it to something like a solar farm, it is quite small, less than half an acre, even sometimes less than a quarter of an acre within the fence. So that's retail storage. sized at roughly 5 to 10 megawatts of capacity. And then you have the large scale utility battery energy storage systems that could be anywhere from 20 to 25 megawatts, sometimes covering numerous acres. So we're talking retail storage, and how these batteries would work is they would charge at night when no one's really using energy, when the demand is low, and then they would discharge during the peak hours of the day when people really need energy, when the grid is really strained and it needs support. On to the next slide. And why are these stored? Why is this happening, right? You know, why is this coming? Why does New York State want this? And there's a couple of reasons. One of the big ones is grid reliability. So not only can these systems help provide backup, help stabilize the grid and help reduce outages or brownouts, they also it's becoming a bit mission critical for the state as a whole and for the grid, you know, across the state, where our grid is old, and instead of needing costly upgrades to upgrade all of the equipment, which is not necessarily a feasible task at this time, implementing these kind of small retail storage systems widespread is a way to, you know, offset the need to do those big upgrades down the line. And these batteries can help the grid every day on those peak days, especially when it's really hot or really cold, when it needs support. It really acts as ancillary equipment to the grid. And then, of course, the environmental impact aspect. You know, you have these non-dispatchable resources like solar and wind. So pairing batteries with those is really helpful to allow, you know, emission emitting power resources to come off the grid. And then you also have those emission emitting power resources that need to get ramped up in times of peak demand on those really hot or cold days when they need to ramp them up, I guess, more than typical. And that's where these batteries can also prevent that from needing to happen down the line. So they have a significant environmental assist as well. And then finally, economics. You know, this one is a tricky one because it's not something you'll see right away, but these batteries will cut the peak energy prices off the curve. So when those peak days happen, prices are also high. So this battery will over time reduce the cost for all residents, anyone that uses electricity as well. Also increase tax revenue for the town just for hosting a project, kind of similar to solar. This next slide, you know, I won't talk too much about it, but I like to show what the inside of these systems look like. You know, sometimes people think you can walk in them and they're really big, and really you can't. They're not walk-in structures. You know, they're really just these containers filled with individual cells that are remotely monitored. I like to always emphasize that, you know, these systems are 24-hour remotely monitored by a person. They're also automatically designed to shut off if there's any, you know, abnormal thermal increase. They shut off by themselves, and it gets pinged to the remote sensor that monitors them. So there's just a lot that goes into it. They're very, very sophisticated systems, you know, even more so than maybe the one that's in your car or, you know, attached to your house or things like that. Now I'll show there's one hypothetical. These are all very hypothetical, so very, very early stage, but just some ideas that we've been having. There's one parcel that Cornell owns up by the airport. You know, it's kind of up and tucked away. It's really tough to see because the parcel's huge, but the system's very small, so I'm very zoomed out. But that little yellow box is a potential location we're considering putting one of these. And I just showing, you know, 5 to 10 megawatts of capacity. And, you know, that roughly just in everyone's head has the ability to power roughly 1,500 homes, you know, per day over the year, depending on how the grid kind of needs energy and the charge and discharge schedule, of course. And then just showing it another potential area. This one's a different part of town, kind of off Hanshaw Road, that we were considering. This one would be, you know, a smaller, half the size potentially of the one I was just showing, but kind of similar as far as design.
Okay, can I ask you a question on that?
Yeah, of course.
That who's got their audience? there's a planned unit development that we've been reviewing. It's like right next to that spot you're talking.
Yes, yes, you are correct. That takes full priority. That takes full priority. This would be almost depending on how that goes, considering this as far as we could do setbacks appropriately from the residences. Yes.
Right, it was off the end of Cardinal Drive, right? Chris? That PUD we reviewed was right off the end of Cardinal Drive, right?
It was right there, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of, I'm not sure if you can see my cursor. It's kind of up in this area that it would be,
Right.
the plan development unit. And then I think I did some little measuring on the ArcGIS, and it looks like, we could at least stay a solid, from the parcel boundary even, like a solid 100, 150 feet away. So it seems like we would be.
I just wasn't sure. I know that's not developed right now, but I know there are some plans to develop right in that. I just want to make sure you're aware.
Thank you.
Middle, but are you actually proposing actual spots? You're just showing what you can do. I'm a little confused.
These are things they're thinking.
These are actual locations.
These are actual locations we're thinking, but they're not locations that, when I say, so I'm saying hypothetical because it's so early stage. We don't have any real estate agreements signed up. I've just been engaging with these people very preliminarily. So they are potential sites, but I don't want to, I guess I don't want to spin everyone up too early. This is the earliest it could possibly be stage for these projects.
That makes sense. I just didn't know if it was totally hypothetical.
Yes. I've spoken to both of the landowners here. I've been going back and forth with both of them. With Cornell, it takes a little bit.
There's a cell tower right near there, right about where that is. I think there's a cell tower.
Yeah, there's a cell tower
somewhere.
Off of Hanshaw. Yeah, I was just driving there recently. I don't know if I even saw it. But also I really appreciate the flag too, because I have gone in front of boards when there was another project on the parcel. So it does happen. So I do appreciate you telling me, and I if I don't know about it, I appreciate it. Awesome. So I'm happy to go back to these slides too. I'll just quickly kind of finish up, and then we'll also feel free to interrupt me as we go. And then we could do any other additional questions. Outstanding. This is an example site. I love this site. It's in Austin, New York. One of the few that you could easily drive to, because I feel like a lot of the times the storage projects are right in the middle of solar farms, so it's hard to get to them or see them really. But this one is behind a church, really close to a playground, and it's kind of a nice example to show where these projects can go. They're quiet. No one's ever driving to them unless you're going to visit it or the occasional maintenance repair that's needed. But this is a bit smaller system than what I would propose. This one's about 3 megawatts, but my colleague was involved in the construction of this one, and I'm happy to share an address, if everyone wants to go see it. And but I just like showing this picture. The next thing I love to address, fire safety. That's always the biggest question I get. It's always the first question I get. We partner with all 3 of these fire safety experts. They're the ones that know the fire action plans, how to draft them. They will come to the meetings, with me to talk about all of that. And I just want to quickly run through it. We do a site-specific emergency response plan. We, of course, train the local fire departments. We also provide response service if there was ever an event, right? It's definitely something we want to address. There's hundreds of battery installations in New York State. Only a handful of events have actually occurred. No one's been hurt. But we want to keep it that way. We want to keep those numbers really low, make sure no one ever gets hurt if there was an event. And the third-party experts like these folks here, ESRG, Fire Risk Alliance, or Camelot, required to be on site within 4 hours and leaving, having a representative and expert leaving within 15 minutes to go to any event. So I'm really, really quickly summarizing this, but these are just some of the aspects on fire safety that we love to address up front. And we're happy to meet with fire departments early on in the projects and get all the questions answered and make everyone feel good and comfortable. just once more emphasizing, batteries have come a long way. I know there's the Moss Landing fire that was in California that got a lot of news attention. These batteries are built very differently now. There's thermal management where they don't propagate the heat. If one cell did heat up and malfunction, where it wouldn't heat up the other cells, now they're thermally insulated from each other, which prevents kind of larger, potentially catastrophic fires. Like I was saying earlier, 24 monitored remotely, designed to shut off by themselves. They've not only have the batteries gone a lot of technological advancements, but fire code has as well. Those fires you see online right now, right, occurred. Those were installed before the updated fire codes came into play. Early this year was the newest version that everyone needs to be compliant with. And that means, we have to have third-party review of our designs. We have to have third-party inspections on top of what the town will do. So just a quick summary of all of the hurdles we need to go over, the steps we need to do to ensure really great, safe systems are installed in the towns of New York and the cities of New York. That's really it for me. I just, Gina, I'm happy to reshare this because I actually added my contact info. I realized I didn't have it on here. So I'm happy to reshare this with you, Gina. And if anyone has questions about what I talked about just now or anything at all, emailing and calling me, please do. Want to be a resource for the community, for everybody. And I'm also happy to answer some quick questions now while we still have time. But that's really it for me.
Okay. Thank you. I know, so one of the things we are working on in our zoning rewrite is a piece related to BSO, Cartest, battery energy storage system. So,
Right.
As much information as we can get on these things is going to be helpful, right? And it's, because you're right, the biggest concerns generally are noise, fire risk,
Right.
contamination, that can happen, those kind of things. Setbacks, what are one of the things we'll be looking at is, what are appropriate setbacks if we regulate this for a given size. The ones you're talking about here are relatively small, right? Or would they be called mid-size?
Exactly. Right.
We looked at that, I think was probably several times the size. But you guys build mostly those in this size range?
Correct. Yeah. It's interesting actually you bring up the size too, because where, I come from, of course, the solar industry. Solar, there's the community solar size, which is, still obviously many acres, like 20, 25 acres. And then you have utility scale solar, whereas utility scale solar, those hundreds of acres, that was regulated by the state, it was not governed by home rule. Whereas batteries, everything is governed by home rule, every battery system, even the big utility ones. So we do sometimes get accidentally grouped with the utility scale projects, but no, these will be connecting to the 3-phase existing distribution grid, existing DG, either off Hanshaw or off Sapsucker Road. This are the two potential projects I showed today. If those proceed, and we can be compliant with how Dryden wants to regulate battery storage. But yeah, that's a great question because I do get that sometimes.
No, this is good. Anybody have a question? No? Doesn't sound like we have a lot of questions for you at the moment.
No worries.
But no, this is good information. I appreciate you presenting.
Of course. Thank you for having me and happy to share. I'll send Gina. I have I'll send this updated presentation. I have like a draft code of a town nearby that I'm doing a project over in Lansing. Actually, they have it pretty just as a starting point. And
all that would be really good to hear. I think, Chris, did you have a question?
I just thought of, do you know anything more has happened at the state level with the fire response teams? I know that was kind of in development the last time we talked about battery storage.
Right. So so some of the things I was saying during the presentation are from the kind of updated fire code requirements. And, in order for us to really do any of these projects, some of those updates include the 15 minutes. They need to be on the road within 15 minutes, there within 4 hours for emergency response. That we need to be kind of paying for that, and then also paying for the training of the local fire department on top of that. So those things I was just saying are more new. We've actually been doing that, but it's now requirements for the most part. So maybe that is what I think you're talking about, but I could also be wrong. There could be something else.
Yeah, thank you. That answers. Thank
Of
you.
course. Yeah, of course.
No, doesn't sound like it. All right, well, thank you very much. And we look forward to seeing any information you want to send over.
Thank you. Of course.
And sorry, Joe, I'm keeping my camera off because it seems to be locking up my computer. What's next? Zoning rewrite. Okay, next steps. As I mentioned, not a lot new here. Everybody knows what we're doing. I'm meeting with Gina and Ray tomorrow with Nan to review some more of what we have for draft conservation subdivision. Because there's some pieces, as I mentioned before, there are some in the last draft that she sent back to us. There are still some things that need to be revisited. And then Ray, I think, and Gina have some additional questions that they wanted to ask in there. So there'll be I'm having a conversation with them, with Nan tomorrow about that. And I'll get information out tomorrow with the agenda for the ZAG meeting. But the agenda for the ZAG meeting will be revisiting the conservation subdivision piece and then continuing on as we have time with the next sections that we have to review of the zoning. And I'll mention what goes on. I did send last month out, I did send out a bunch of information about like what's in phase one, because we have a number of new people. I hope that was helpful. We do have some, I'm sure there'll be a lot of interest in this coming ZAG next week. So I'm trying to think, that the conference room, from an audio perspective, I think the conference room works better for that meeting, but it might get a little crowded. But I think for the people that join on Zoom, it really wasn't a good experience last month with the ZAG. So
Yeah, and you can see the screen better.
yeah, we can see the screen better, right? I think it's better. I know it's smaller, and so we'd be a little tight in there maybe, but I think that's probably better on what we do. Any other comments or questions on zoning rewrite? I mean, we need to get the best work in here too. So I don't think we'll get to it at this next meeting, but the following one, I'm hoping that we'll have that one. So, and actually, it'd be good to have some of this information we got on this too, so sort of have something.
Yeah, because the last time John had put a bunch of stuff together, but some of that stuff was still right in major progress at the state level.
Right. At that time, there's a lot of stuff that was still in the works, but some of it's been kind of settled at the state level, so that will help.
What did happen to that other group that presented it?
I think my understanding is they're still, they were a couple of years out, and I think
that still something.
I think so. I don't know. We have not had any application from them.
Yeah.
So I think they're still interested there, but I don't.
Like 2028, 2029.
I know that's what they were thinking. Yeah. So that's it for zoning rewrite. Planning department update.
Okay, so the Route 13 pedestrian bridge for the rail trail is underway. They have broken ground for that project. The Route 13 feasibility study for that parcel near NYSEG, it's about 100 acres, but only maybe about 50 acres are not wetlands. We have a grant from the county called a HASIG grant, HASIG, that is covering a feasibility study for that becoming a more active node for housing and housing supportive building over there. That is being sort of overseen by the Affordable Workforce Housing Committee. They met with the contractor last week. They did a walk around of the site, and then there's going to be a charrette where the Affordable Workforce Housing folks can go back and forth with the contractor about what they'd like to see in that report. So that's all going on. The county has advanced an application for the town of Dryden and the Hanshaw Village Mobile Home Park to have an extension of water lines out there. So currently we're doing the sewer lines, but the county is supporting a grant for doing the water lines as well. So we have yet to hear about that. And they're sending that over to the legislature to get that approved. And then it would advance from there if the county legislature approves of it. And I think that's all I can think of right now.
Okay. Any questions for Gina? No? Okay. Town board update. That you?
That'd be me.
Okay.
So Gina already shared the talk about the Bell Trail Bridge.
Yep. And I've actually driven by there and seen there's work going on there. That's good. Yeah.
There's a lot of effort and discussions going on with conversations with the fire halls about developing a fire district. So that will be on the upcoming agenda this coming month. Encouraging people to attend. If you'd like to know more, let me know. Dryden Fiber is full swing. That's been a big topic for the last couple of meetings. I already shared earlier, we're going to be getting a new AV system in here, so that's going to make people happy. It will include a camera across the room, so you can join by Zoom, but you don't have to have your camera on during Zoom. So that's exciting for some. And save the date, April 28th, from 4 to 6. Bambi is going to be retiring, and we're going to get together for that. So those are the highlights, unless there's anything anybody would like me to be sure to cover.
I will tell you, I think having a camera out there looking at this thing here is that, yes, absolutely, that should be included. You really need two cameras in here. You need one that looks at here and one that looks at this.
I know, but we're getting that.
All right, well, that's better than nothing.
Very large screen television, so we don't have the problem with
That-
not being able to see like map today.
Screening projector.
And then these are going to be retrofitted instead of trying to have
Yep.
mics in the ceiling.
Got it.
So,
Sounds good. Everybody got their town email address? I thought Chris would certainly say something about that. Yeah, so we have town email addresses. Not all the boards have them yet. She's been rolling them out with boards. I'm not sure where she is in it all, but we have them at least, so we can start using them. I would recommend that for board business, we use the town email addresses just because it is a public committee, and if people want to foil information from those emails, they're not foiling the personal email. So I know it's kind of a pain to have another email address, but I think for doing business of the board, it's probably a good idea to. So starting with the stuff I send out probably tomorrow, it'll start coming from the town, from my town email.
Do we get disconnected though? Mine's still connected to both.
Cassie, so as far as like in the groups, so when you email planning board, right now it's going by. Yes, we will have, once we know, I think what she was planning was once she knows that we've all gotten in and are using our, and I'm hoping everybody responded to her, right, that you got in. That she'll remove us from those groups. But I'll double check with her just to make sure that.
That's what you stated.
Yeah, I know that's the plan, but the question is, did they actually do it?
I think it will allow,
Yeah.
the boards to be able to use like Teams or SharePoint too. So that you don't
That's
have
true.
multiple versions
Yeah.
of all these things, so.
Yeah, it will allow, the town has, Office 365 functions, right, which include Teams and SharePoint.
Can we use that for agenda items? That'd be great, if one SharePoint.
For agenda items, yeah.
Yeah.
That might be a way to do it, where we could look at something.
Technology there.
Yeah, well, and actually by having these town email addresses now, we have access to those things, so we can start using some of those things.
Shared editing.
Shared editing, wouldn't that be simple? Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
I
so
think
that-
you answered my question, Tony, because I was concerned about the availability of the Microsoft Outlook and the other software, which I've been avoiding since I retired, and I really don't like Outlook at all. But if that's a requirement of the board, I'll
Well,
suck it up.
I don't think you have to use Outlook as long as you can attach.
Sorry, you're really, really soft spoken right now.
I don't think you have to use Outlook per se. There are, if you have another mail client you're using those, and there is also the web version Outlook that so you're just using the web browser. And
Right, that's true. All right, I'll figure it out.
if you
Thanks.
don't want to use Outlook itself.
Yeah.
So,
Thanks.
all right. Okay. OneDrive would be good for files. Yeah. The minutes approval, we're gonna skip because there's some additional documents I had attached to the other, and I will be sending those out to look at, so you guys haven't had a chance to look at them, so we're not going to be able to talk about them. The reason those minutes were a little complicated is because we had a lot of public comment at that meeting, so incorporating all that public comment in and getting some other pieces added in is it made the minutes a little complicated. You have a question?
I'm gonna have a comment.
Go ahead.
I think this is really messy. I think it's good to hear what you need to say. I disagree with you on that. I think it's fine. That having public comment questions directly in front of us doesn't seem like good.
It's not what I intended.
I think, but I kind of give up.
He did. Well, and part of it was we needed them near the microphone so we could hear them, so that we could get their questions on the record, and I didn't really intend for that particular thing to happen, which is why I was trying to, it's a balance of, we want people to be able to comment, we want people to feel like they have input, and we want to listen to them.
Yes.
But on the other hand, in this particular case, a lot of things that comments were being made on was new information that nobody's had a chance to really review yet. And so, I was trying to, let people go and look at it before they make comments, but.
Yeah, no, I think it was kind of just.
I agree with you. I agree with you that it was a little messy. But Alan seemed to do okay.
Yeah.
And I think we got some good information out of it. And so as we're studying this stuff, we have some more to deal with. And like I said, had this been the April 23rd meeting where we're doing an actual review and we got information on the day, I would not have included it. But because this was really just introductory information that we're going to use for a future meeting, is why I wanted to allow that to come to next meeting. but it's. Chris, I understand.
Because the only thing is, say we get to April 23rd.
Yeah.
We have a public meeting which will take up significant time.
It will.
If we have significant changes that we want to suggest that, this is gonna delay, which, I mean, I don't care.
Yeah.
It's just.
And remember that April 23rd meeting is a preliminary site plan review or is it sketch plan review? It's preliminary meeting. There's 2 more meetings after that. We're gonna have to come back with a preliminary plat and then a final plat. So, you know, even if it has to get pushed out, like, let's say we can't get through everything and it has to get pushed out, it has to get pushed out.
Well, I just thought because of how much comment we've gotten already,
Oh,
like if we could have reviewed it a little more, then we might have been able to guide even further before the public
correct.
hearing. That's kind of where I was.
Yeah. So anyway, so it is what it is. I appreciate everybody listening to what he had to say, and we'll go from there. And I think that's it. Do we have anything else? Anything from anybody on Zoom? Think so. Think we're all good.
All
Anything
good.
else? Anything else? Oh, okay, we're adjourned. And look, it's 20 minutes to 8.